Welcome to our presentation on Llamas and AAC. This presentation was created by Alyssa Alden-Smith and Elizabeth Dickey. You've probably never considered a llama as a future partner in animal-assisted counseling, but we have some compelling reasons that may cause you to think about this woolly and lovable animal as an asset in your future practice.
So, llamas may not be the first animal that comes to your mind when you're trying to think of an exemplar of that category therapy animal. And I think that's because they're so big at a human height of between 5 and 6 feet and an average of 300 pounds. They might even seem intimidating to some people. But I think that Elizabeth and I chose to research llamas because at at a gut level, they make us grin and they're fluffy, as evidenced by internet memes, of course. Even their scientific name is kind of funny. They're called llama glamas. So, funny name and general goofiness aside, after digging a little further into that instinct, we also learned that llamas have certain traits that could make them good therapy partners. So, llamas are generally described using words like gentle and intelligent and highly trainable, which makes a lot of sense given that humans and llamas have had a long time to get used to each other. The animals that we know as llamas today are descendants of another member of the South American camelid family called the wild guanaco. And as early as 6,000 years ago, the Incas began to domesticate those llama ancestors, and llamas came to be a revered part of that economy and culture. Later, llamas made their debut in North America, where they were sought for their novelty. And moving into today, llamas have been found to be responsive to clicker training and can be taught to do things like get into and out of cars, carry packs, herd other animals, climb stairs, and walk with a lead. That being said, carrying packs and herding are contraindicated by pet partners for use as therapeutic interventions with llamas.
Like many animals, llamas use their voices to communicate. There are several different kinds of sounds that you will hear if you're spending time with llamas. Humming is a very common sound. Llamas hum when they're tired, when they're stressed. It can mean that they're hot. It can mean that they're curious about something happening around them. Here's an example of a llama making a humming sound. Clucking is another sound that llamas make. This can be a friendly or a submissive noise. Llamas may do this when they're meeting a new llama or even when they're flirting. Here's a little bit of clucking. And then there's a sound called the alarm cry. This is a sound that llamas make when they are feeling threatened. It's usually very loud because the purpose of the alarm cry is to warn the rest of the herd about a threat. And so a llama might make an alarm cry if they see another animal or a person coming toward them that they feel could be dangerous. This is the alarm cry.
Okay, so since verbal signals like humming can have multiple meanings, knowledge of how llamas communicate nonverbally can help you to clarify some of that confusion about what they might be trying to tell you by giving you some of that context. So, a humming llama with upright ears is probably expressing curiosity, but as those ears start to rotate back and get closer to the head, humming should probably be interpreted as a warning that could be a precursor to another behavior like the stigmatized spitting. While llamas do spit, they usually only spit at other llamas when they're in fear and when they've exhausted all other means of communication. So you can greatly reduce the risk of a llama spitting by properly socializing it with other llamas so that that llama distinguishes humans from llamas of their own kind, as well as by paying attention to all the nonverbal cues um, that your llama might be under stress that could lead up to spitting, like rapid breathing, drooling, a clamped down tail, these wide open, Joe caught in the headlight eyes, and flared nostrils. Um, because usually these pack and prey animals prefer to use defensive communications like playing dead by lying sideways with their necks lowered and tails raised, or pronking, which is this bouncing lope that you see off to the right of the screen.
Obviously, as with any animal, there are benefits and challenges. Llamas are really quiet and calm animals when people understand them and know how to interact with them. It's a real positive because it's a great lesson in being responsive, um, operating within boundaries, and learning about others. There are some challenges, certainly. When we think about the communication that we've looked at, their hums can really range in meaning, anywhere from curiosity to stress, being overheated. And so that's a little bit harder to differentiate. And certainly when you're thinking about children, that might be challenging for them to differentiate between those sounds. And then there is obviously the spitting, kind of what the negative behavior that many llamas are famous for. And that can really cause people to feel concerned about being around llamas. And so, certainly, helping people to understand the things that they might see before spitting would happen and how rarely it happens is important when you are talking to people about working with llamas in AAC. Human responses to llama communication are typically very positive. Llama communication is pretty easy to read once you understand the basic sounds and behaviors that you're going to come into contact with when you are spending time with llamas. People really enjoy interacting with llamas. They respond well to touch and affection. They are interested in people, and they are appreciative of people who can understand them. It's not hard to teach children and adults how to respond to llamas, and it helps build observational skills that can be useful in many different kinds of relationships.
So, now that we've talked about what llamas might be trying to tell you, let's think about how you can communicate with the llama in your life in a way that they're receptive to, and that might make them more apt to be a good listener. Even though all llamas are a little bit different and will probably have different tolerance levels for things like noisiness or rough petting, just like we might expect dogs or other animals that we have more daily incidental contact with to, as a rule of thumb, llamas like it best when you come towards them from the side, speaking in calm tones before petting them on the neck. On an ongoing basis in the day to day scheme of things, you can say a lot about how much you care for your llama by making sure that they have a lot of grassy outdoor area to graze and regular interaction time with other llamas, which of course goes back to those 5 freedoms of animal welfare that we've touched on earlier in the
If you're
course.
considering a llama in animal assisted counseling, there are some practical matters that you need to think about. First of all, llamas do not like to be alone. They're herd animals and they need a companion. Um, their top choice would be another llama. They can live with other animals, but they really do prefer to live with another llama. So now you have two llamas. Um, Two to four llamas would need about an acre of land to live comfortably. Um, and they need some type of shelter. They need either a roofed over area or a three-sided type of shelter. In Texas, the greatest threat to llamas weather-wise is the heat. Llamas can get very stressed and ill if they are overheated. And so that's why the roofed area is important. There needs to be good air circulation and a place for them to get out of the sun. Llamas like to eat hay. They also like to have a pasture area where they can forage, and so that's important to think about. You also want to think about the ordinances where you live. For instance, in the city of Austin, if you have two livestock, they have to be at least 100 feet from any residential property. And so you would need a fenced in area for your llamas that needs to be about an acre, and it has to be at least 100 feet from your home if that's where you're keeping them. So, just some important things to think about. Here is a look at some llamas being fed. Here are two quotes that give you a picture of the broad array of benefits llamas may offer clients in animal assisted counseling. You can also see that llamas have the potential to work with many different types of clients. Clients with medical issues, behavioral issues, autism, all can benefit from the presence of a llama. Although Alyssa and I would be more than happy to hang out with llamas, there may be some people that will be a little bit more skittish about interacting. And so I think it's important to think of some ways that you could help adults or children interact and kind of get comfortable spending time with a llama. So here's an example of one way that you might do that. I don't know who wouldn't want to brush a llama, and as you can see, sharing some affection kind of becomes a part of that interaction between this woman and the llama. Other possibilities of activities to do with llamas could include feeding them, walking them, leading them on a leash. So there are a number of ways to begin to build that comfort level between humans and llamas. Question. Many children have never been around an animal the size of a llama. Children are used to dogs, cats, maybe bunnies, lizards. How do you think this would affect children participating in AAC? Would the llama be a limiting factor? Would parents have concerns when they're thinking about animal assisted counseling and their child spending time with a llama? We look forward to your responses to this question. Thank you.
So, we opened by acknowledging that llamas may not be that first animal that comes to your mind when you're thinking about therapy animals, and that definitely bears out when looking at the representation of llamas in that general population of therapy animals that are registered. At the moment, there are only 14 registered llamas in the US, and that probably has a little something to do with special legal considerations that come with working with any large animal, like the kind that you would see when working with a horse or a donkey, for example. But we have seen that the few that do work with llamas therapeutically believe that llamas are valuable therapy partners because they're engaging, petting them reduces stress, and interaction with them necessitates learning how to identify and respect the boundaries of another living being. It also seems like the few llamas working as therapy animals have had a large impact relative to how few of them there are in the field. They've touched a lot of people in places where you might not expect to see them, whether that be in a nursing home setting or in a school for the visually impaired, and they've been featured in a lot of news stories. Of course, some of that boils down to just the novelty of seeing llamas interacting with people in those settings where you might not expect to see them. But there's also some really cool, not sensationalized therapeutic work being done with llamas. So, to give you a little taste of that, here's a brief clip of a llama and a therapist working with an autistic girl to help her become more verbal.
So, auch noch eine Handvoll, Marie? Sag mal laut ja. Ja. Ja, super, toll. Komm her.
Die Geschwister Erik und Marie sind heute ebenfalls zu Besuch bei Tom und Helmut. Während es Erik schwerfällt, abzuwarten und seine Bewegungen ruhig zu koordinieren, hat Marie deutliche Defizite in der Sprachentwicklung und im Bereich des Selbstvertrauens.
Ja, wen möchtest du heute haben?
Wieder den.
Möchtest du wieder den haben? Super, ja?
Und ich dann wieder.
Weißt du noch, wie er heißt? So? Sag mal laut Tom.
Tom.
Hey, super, ja?
Alpaka Tom dient bei Marie vor allem als Motivator. Immer mit dem Ziel, dass sie sich überhaupt traut zu sprechen. Und auch beim Balancieren und bei gezielten Bewegungen unterstützt Tom sie als Begleiter. Marie zeigt deutlich mehr Ausdauer und Antrieb bei den Übungen, wenn sie Tom dabei an der Leine hat.
Du warst heute ganz, ganz mutig und hast ganz viel gesprochen. Ja? Und ich konnte dich super verstehen. So, ihr dürft jetzt beide sie gleich nochmal streicheln und dann bringen wir sie wieder zurück ins Gehege. Einverstanden? Ja?
Ja.
Okay.